Now, speaking of Nigerians doing incredible things, making us proud at home and abroad, huge shout out to my very own father, Kabiyesi, the Onidera of Ìdèra. I was shocked that Kabiyesi watches this show. Can you imagine? Obe James Aroko, Buremoh, Ajagungbade the first. My father, Kadepelori Kibata, Opelesi Obeni. Now I need help getting up. Koledo, come and bow for the king. Go, Janet. Never mind. Now, for those who may be wondering, yes, he's the one. Of course, former Nigerian wrestler, the African Tiger. Yes, so this man was so popular in the 80s, representing Nigeria at the Wild West Wrestling until 1989 when he injured his neck. He went back home after that. He had moved to the US since 1977, went to college in Georgia. Anyway, after he got injured, he went back to Nigeria for about 10 years. He's originally from Onidera in Kwara State. Shout out to Ìdèra people. But then he came back to the US, living a regular life. And guess what? From 1999, he started working in New York as a tour bus driver. Those tour buses that you guys see. Maybe some of you have even run into my father while he was driving a double-decker. I'm telling you. Now guess what? On May 10th, 2004, he was crowned the King of Ìdèra against all his protests because he did not want to be king. He didn't want that responsibility. Ìdèra is a town of about 12,000 people, he said. And so he didn't want that responsibility. He didn't want to be king. He wanted to be in New York, living a regular life. But the town insisted that he has to be king. He's the youngest of 9 children. His uncle was king, and then when his uncle died, his dad was supposed to be the next king, but his dad had also died. His dad actually died before his uncle. His dad was supposed to be king before his uncle, but we're not going into that story. His dad had told him in 1994 that he would be the next king. And he said absolutely no, that he's not interested, that he would not be king, but his dad insisted that he had to be the next king. And that was why he actually ran from Nigeria back to New York to drive a bus. He said he just wanted to take care of his own family. He has 10 children of his own, by the way, to take care of. And he didn't want to be a king. But when he went for his parents' funeral outing, both his parents, the town insisted that he had to be king. So he gave them a condition. He said, well, I don't have any other business that I'm doing in Nigeria. I don't have any other means of income. I'm a bus driver in New York. I'm not about to just sit here waiting for the pennies that come from the state government. Usually the state government gives some allocation to kings, but it's not a lot of money. It's actually nothing for the kings themselves to live on, not talk about using that to develop their towns. So he said, I'm not about to sit here waiting for the pennies that come from the state government. I will only be king if you would let me spend 6 months in a year back in New York driving a bus. And then the town said, sure, why not? And then he called his job in New York and asked whether they would agree to that arrangement. And they said, of course, you're now a king. If you want to work only 6 months in a year, sure, you can do that. So ladies and gentlemen, since 2004, that was how Obe Ìdèra would spend 6 months at home being king. And then for 6 months in a year, he would take off his crown, go back to New York, driving a double-decker bus. And why his story inspires me is the fact that he takes the money that he makes of his own to not just take care of his family, but to take care of his hometown. Remember, he has 10 children of his own to take care of, but he also decided to take care of his people, all from his salary as a bus driver. I asked him what motivates him, what inspires him to do this, and he said, well, he grew up watching his dad making an impact in his town. His hometown was founded by his grandfather, and so he said he grew up watching his dad making an impact in his town, even though his dad was never king. The first road that led to Ìdèra was constructed by his dad. The first hospital, a dispensary, was built by his dad. The first post office was built by his dad. The first school in Ìdèra was built by his dad. All this in the 60s and 70s. So guess what? Every time he gets paid in New York, he sends some money home. He said that the biggest problem at that time in his town was water scarcity. So the first thing he did was to sink a couple of boreholes in his town. And then he got some of his friends, some of his co-workers to help pay for more boreholes. And then he said when Kwara State government heard that the new king was digging boreholes for his people, the government also came and sank more boreholes. So now his town has about 9 boreholes. He also tore down and renovated the hospital built by his dad. He renovated the school built by his dad, and then he built more classrooms. He bought a transformer for his town so that they could have electricity. On a yearly basis for about 4 years, he said he would rent a grader and grade the road to his hometown while they continue to wait for the government of the state to tear the road. Unfortunately, the government of Kwara State is yet to tar the road to his hometown since 2004 that he's been king. I think they just forgot. So Kwara State government, we are begging you, please tar the road to Ìdèra. A lot of people want to go and see what Obe Ìdèra is doing. God bless you, Kwara State government. In any case, every year he will grade the road from Owode to Ìdèra as they continue to wait on the government to fix their road. He said until erosion made it impossible. He said now it has become way too expensive for one person to do because the road is so bad right now. He bought water pumps for farmers and encouraged more people to go into farming in Ìdèra. He had professionals come to examine their soil texture in Ìdèra, and they found out that their land is really, really good and fertile for cashew farming. And within 3 years, they started producing cashew in Ìdèra. He gave an acre of land to anybody interested in cashew farming. As a matter of fact, today Ìdèra is now one of the largest producers of cashew in Kwara State. He invested in their gari production to the point where gari Ìdèra became so popular. Now they have gari production stations. There is so much that I could say, but his biggest pride, he told me, is his wife, the beautiful Olori of Ìdèra, Olori Roslyn Abosede Buremoh, my mother. In fact, let me play his words about his beautiful wife.
Oh, my dear, if I might say, she made a big difference in my life. She's been like my guardian angel. We've done everything together. I mean, literally everything. From raising the kids to being on the throne. She's my greatest advisor. She's my rock. And I really do appreciate her. I love her more than anything else.
I'm not going to cry. Kabiyesi is in love. Thank you so much, my mother. We appreciate you on this show. He talked at length about his wife and how she empowers women in the town. As a matter of fact, every Christmas, she would distribute food from house to house, making sure that people have more than enough to celebrate Christmas. They literally will pack vehicles and they will be giving food to people. Everything that I've mentioned, by the way, that he did, he said they did it together. His biggest thing was the fact that she made a lot of sacrifice because, you know, they were supposed to be in New York together. But because he's king now, the wife had to stay back in Kwara State to raise the children while he went to work in New York. So he said that she made a huge sacrifice in raising the kids while he wasn't around most of the time. He also wanted me to give a shout out to his kids for putting up with the fact that he was gone most of the time, trying to make ends meet in New York while they were growing up in Nigeria.
Back home, I'm not supposed to drive myself. I'm not supposed to cook. I'm not supposed to do anything on my own. Everything is supposed to be done for me. I've given all of myself to be able to make sure that life is better for the community. I drop everything about myself. Even when Shile came, my son, when he came 2 weeks ago, he couldn't believe where I live. I live in a one room, he couldn't believe it.
By the way, he raised all his children on the same salary. Today, 4 of them now have doctorate degree in pharmacy. He has 2 of them in pre-med school. The youngest is done with high school. I mean, seriously, like I said, Kabiyesi did all of this and also impacted thousands of lives in his town, all by driving a bus in New York. I'm sorry to say, but Kabiyesi is so cool. Like he's like one of those cool dads, one of those cool uncles that you can just talk about all kinds of things with Kabiyesi. You will not even remember that he's a king. I mean, he knows he's a king, he knows his royalty, but then when Kabiyesi gets down with you, you guys will be talking like, my father, God bless you, we appreciate you. He even has time for small girls like myself. I am so glad that Victor and I got to visit him and his wife in Brooklyn. Put up our photo with, thank you so much, my father. So for those living in New York, I am so sorry that I'm just telling you guys this story because I know you might want to meet Kabiyesi because Kabiyesi is now moving to Kentucky, but I know that he's coming back to New York in November. I asked him if he's still driving the bus. He said, of course, that he's allowed to keep his job for as long as he wants. So above all, Kabiyesi turned 65 last month. Ladies and gentlemen, doesn't he look good? Like seriously, 65? Doesn't he look good? I'm telling you, black don't crack. If anybody would like to say happy birthday to my father or give him a shout out for all the amazing job that he's done in his hometown, this is his Instagram page. When I interviewed him for this story, I said, Kabiyesi, are you on Instagram? He said, no. I said, well, today you get on Instagram. So he said, of course, why not, that he will get on Instagram. And he did. So ladies and gentlemen, follow my father on Instagram. Write him on there. He is so cool. Like I said, like for real, for real. Thank you so much, Daddy, for all that you're doing. We really appreciate you. It's not just your children that appreciate you, but we are all your children. Except for Kolido, his own shakara is too much. Anyway, Nigerians in Kentucky, please help me take care of my father as he moves to Kentucky. You guys not doing much. Guess what? I'm just keeping it real.